Hi there, everybody. November the 1st, Peter of England, 3 days before the United States presidential election result, and I thought I would make this video expressing some of the concerns that I have for the general situation concerning the United States presidential election generally, and the position that Donald Trump has portrayed as being a leader of the free world and an exponent of restoring democracy and honesty to the political status quo in the United States. It's an apt day for me to be doing this because November the 1st is historically called All Saints' Day, when the souls are supposedly returning back to the earth from the underworld, or them being dead. And that's a similar situation as we're going to be finding ourselves in very, very soon if the New World Order global agenda for 5G and vaccination is allowed to roll out. Now, the one thing I'd like to state at the very, very beginning is really pertaining to what's happened globally. What's happened globally is that no matter which country you are in, whether it's United Kingdom or Canada, United States, Australia, France or Germany, isn't it very strange that you have all been subjected to the same Chinese Communist Party degree of criminal oppressive tyranny, which was an untried scenario back in February and March when Wuhan was supposedly locked down. Now, that was really unheard of in the general scheme of things and the history of how epidemics or pandemics were handled up until that point. So maybe ask yourself why. How come this happened, and how come all these so-called democratic countries didn't take any alternative perspective whatsoever? They chose to go along with the Communist China Party doctrine. The reason that it was done, for those people who think out there's lots of coincidences and it was just the best protocol as advised by the World Health Authority or World Health Organization, it wasn't. It's because the global tentacles of the global octopus have managed to transcend into all countries of the world, and the same narrative, the same agenda was previously agreed on as to how it would be rolled through. Now, that leads me on to the election, and it leads me on to something that's concerned me about Donald Trump, the White House and the administration since the election there in 2016. I've got around, could be 12, 15 points I'm going to try and bring up and ask you to start thinking these over, because I find the message that Donald Trump delivered was initially as euphoric for the vast majority of people who had any sort of intelligence and reasoning as to the eternal clarion call that we're always looking for at last a change. Prior to that, Barack Obama, when he got elected and he managed to do his 2 4-year terms, there was a state of euphoria then. Remember, everything was going to change for the better. First black man to be allowed into the White House. But it didn't turn out to be like that, did it? So 8 years was wasted. Now we've gone into a Trump presidency, and now we've just had 4 years of Donald Trump. And the reason I'm bringing this video out at this point is upon great reflection, on a great deal of procrastination, of soul searching, of meditation and examining the lay of the land. I'm starting to come to a conclusion that maybe, just maybe, that Donald J. Trump has been put into the White House under the auspices then of this banner of Q and this military cloak. He's been put in there as a stalking horse. And what I mean by that is that any incumbent politician his currency to the puppet masters and to the globalist New World Order agenda, the Ashkenazi Zionist cabals plan for world domination and tyranny and extermination of you and your family. Is the currency of the politician is the ability and the duration that he can successfully deceive the electorate. That's all they're there for. And that's why they change these democratically elected politicians every 4 or 5 years. Maybe they endure for up to 8. But after that period, they change, just like a revolving door. One comes in, the other one goes out. So this is the scenario that we have at the moment. And my main concern has been, and this was really from day one, if you look at the Al Smith Memorial Dinner, where Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were both invited guests, and I think that was in October 2016. This is a dinner that is always hosted just before the presidential run-in and the presidential elections. What you'll find is that Donald Trump was very enthusiastic and basically banging the drum, the war drum, of what he would actually do when he came into power. And one of the things is he was stating exclusively and repeatedly that he was going to jail Hillary. Now, the problem is we've had 4 years now of Donald Trump being attacked, vilified, almost at every level imaginable. Has he been attacked, just simply and plainly attacked by the media, by the press, by everybody that's been inculcated by this type of propagandist news. So it makes me think, well, okay, could he have fought back? Would it have been good? Did he have any defense? And if he did, why did he keep it so hush-hush? Why has he been so stoical about it? Why has he been so cool and relaxed about it? Nigel Farage recently came out and did an introductory speech for Donald Trump, I think a couple of days ago now. And he basically praised him for being one of the, if not the most resilient politician that he'd ever met. And as a leader of the free world, it was, a singular honor to meet someone who could handle all the flack and the attacks that he's lived with constantly. So there are 2 ways we can now go forward and look at this. And the one I want to present to you now is the following. There is so much ammunition that he could have used against the people who come out and attack him and make all sorts of assertions as to his character or his lack of character. He could have done this in many ways. He could have done it with factual information that exists now in the media, but he could have also gone historically back in time. So what I want to touch on now, to all those people who are pro-Trump, all those people who are pro-Q, which I was and indeed arguably still am, but I would just like to put this caveat up there. I would like to fly this flag that we could all possibly be being deceived. And we could possibly be being deceived in the same way that we were all deceived when Obama came into power. Everybody thought it was good. Everybody thought there was going to be change for the better. But in fact, it was anything but. It was change for the worse. Why I'm saying this on the penultimate day before the eve of the elections is, could this have all happened again? Has Donald Trump been simply put there as a stalking horse? Has he been put there to run the clock down for another 4 years for us to now get into the next 4 years? Because I've got no doubt there'll be an overwhelming victory for him on the 2nd and then announced on the 3rd. And so I'm asking myself the following questions. The first one really is the 2018 midterm elections, which were probably stolen, and the Congress got back the House, and not a lot of vociferousness or not enough explanation from the White House, not enough investigation or forced investigation as to why, with only 2 years having gone from the landslide victory, the Democrats managed to take control of the Congress. And because of that, it was a very significant problem, because from then they allowed the Mueller report, they allowed the Ukraine investigation, and it just dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. So I think there was election gerrymandering and stealing there. And so I think that's something that should have been looked at. Another thing is Trump's association with Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi. Also very suspicious that someone with such a known criminal history and such an involvement in crimes against humanity is one of the biggest buddies, and always there seems to be a deep affection there. And especially with this new Middle East accord, where now Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia all conveniently come together with, you know, I don't know, some piecemeal agreement not to blow each other up. Leading on from that, the next point, Donald Trump, just like Angela Merkel, just like Obama, just like Boris Johnson, just like the Clintons and the Bushes before him, he still insists when he's in the press conferences in the White House in making this Masonic hand signal gesture, portraying the fact to those who understand these type of signals that, yes, okay, everything's under control. I'm on board. I'm doing what needs to be done. Don't panic, please. So you've got to ask yourself, there is no need for him to do that. It isn't just an autonomous movement that he makes just because, you know, it's like crossing your legs or scratching your nose. Those hand signals are given for a reason. So Trump also, he's not brought any of the people that he threatened to bring to justice. He has arrested nobody. He hasn't touched with the Clintons. He's got an Attorney General Barr, Fred Flintstone look-alike, who's basically done nothing. And prior to that, Rob Rosenstein, who has been involved in openly admitting that he was willing to wear a wire to bug a conversation with Donald Trump. Nothing happened. No prosecution of Hillary. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton are involved in some of the most great scandals that you could ever imagine and crimes against humanity. But he hasn't even touched on it. He could have used some of this material to defend himself in the past 4 years. And I know all you people out there are fed on a Kool-Aid diet of what Q keeps saying. This is a long-term game. This isn't just another 4-year election. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But the situation we're in now is we're 4 years down the line, no delivery. This is why I'm a little bit concerned, because it could be that you're waiting another year and then another year, which we haven't got, before the vaccines and the 5G arrive, which I'm going to touch on in a moment. So, the FBI and the Department of Justice are still fighting organizations like Judicial Watch and individuals like Tom Fitton, the head of Judicial Watch, who are trying to get prosecutions against Hillary Clinton and Obama for his role in what's called Obamagate. Why is the FBI, Christopher Wray, why is the Attorney General, William Barr, Bill Barr, why are they fighting so vehemently from having these individuals and these inquiries brought to court? Attorney General Barr has basically said there will be no question of Hillary Clinton about Benghazi or any of her other infamous acts. The SEAL 6 team that died in that. I mean, you know, it should be such a call, a primary call for this to be investigated, but it won't be. Nobody's investigating Obama with his links with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, with the Ukraine affair, the money from Russia. You see where we're going with this? And so if you don't want to stay current, what could Donald Trump have done? Very easily, as an almost dead on his feet president, he could have done something like, let's look at truth. Let's look what's been covered up for you. Let's look at, for example, the Kennedy assassination. 1963, then after that, the Warren Commission. He could have declassified the documents. So we could have had a look at the real reason that Kennedy was assassinated. And part of that is because of the UFO in Area 51 scenario. But also the fact that he'd heard from Nikita Khrushchev that there was a secret space program. And that's why Kennedy, just before he got assassinated, I think that was in 62, he basically announced that there would be a space program. Now, if you look at what NASA's involvement in all of this is, please go and look at the definition of what NASA is. It's a civilian space program. Oh, really? Civilian, you say? Not for the United States generally, but for the civilian aspect. And that is the outward-facing arm of the public. That's us, you and I, and them. So maybe there's a military equivalent of NASA that's been doing a lot more things in the background, following, reverse engineering from the Roswell incident and other. So that's something that you need to concern yourself with. The next thing, 9/11. He could have touched on that, It's not really too controversial, but he could have remade it controversial. He could have said, right, let's look at 9/11. What is the truth behind 9/11? What is the truth? Well, the truth is, as we know, the Trade Center buildings were brought down by suitcase nuclear bombs. That's why the place is historically referred to as Ground Zero. And please go in, for all the doubters, please go into the dictionaries and have a look at what the definition of Ground Zero is. But don't just think to yourself, oh yeah, well, they named it that because they hadn't got any other suitable name. The proof, without doubt. How? Seismographs. There is an absolute signature for every type of explosion. If it's an earthquake, you get a particular type of signature. If it's a bomb blowing up Lebanon, as recently happened with the storehouse, bringing great decimation to that city, it's got a distinct signature. Nuclear weapons going off have got a distinct signature. So how come all the seismography from the universities was brought into FBI hands following 9/11, but how come that the Russians have easily shown and proven that the World Trade Center and the other building, was it Building 7? I can't quite remember. They were all brought down by nuclear charges. Also, what will probably have been scrubbed already off the internet, that if you go and look at the building code for New York City in the 1960s, before any skyscraper above a certain height could be built, you had to supply eventuality programs or protocols for the demolition of that building when it came time for that to be structurally insecure or needing to be brought down. And if you look at the City of New York's building codes, you will see that nuclear bombs were considered and were actually stated as being allowable. So it's not as fantastic a reach as you might imagine. So he could have touched on that, he could have brought that forward, and he could easily prove that very sinister organizations, the Bushes particularly, and Cheney and Rumsfeld, were all involved with other agencies to do something there to bring about those towers, to bring them down in the way that I suggest, or we suggest, or we know that they were. The other things that we could touch on that are very, very suspicious. prior to him becoming president, Donald Trump was very vociferous about Obama not being able to be constitutionally recognized as the president of the United States because he wasn't a citizen, he was not born in the United States. Obama, the official story that he was born in Hawaii, but we actually have this on film, we have it on tape, that Barack Obama states openly that he was Kenyan and born in Kenya. We even have him on tape stating that he knows and will prove and has proven the fact that he can become president by deceit and due to the naivety of the American people. He comes out and basically states this. So why hasn't at least Donald Trump in his 4 years taken some of this ammunition and thrown it back to all those people, especially in the mainstream media, who've vilified him and criticized him for doing this, this and the other? He's been very, very quiet, and I'm thinking almost too quiet. It hasn't bothered me up till now, but for some reason it is bothering me. The other thing I'm not very happy about is support of fracking. We know that fracking detrimentally destroys the harmonic resonance of the planet, whether it's the Schumann resonance at about 7.83 hertz or any other resonances. Yeah, living bodies don't really like having fracking experimentation perpetrated on them any more than they do underground nuclear tests or surface nuclear tests. So why would a president be fully supportive of that? Another thing that I'm very, very disturbed about, but have ignored it for the years thinking he's just saying it, this is the 5G nightmare, the scenario of rolling out 5G. He seems to be very, very supportive of it and says we've got to get it there for the future of the United States economy and. So I'll let you do further research on that. While we're on the subject of 5G out there, I think for the future, 61.893 gigahertz. If you divide that into 330 or 300, it will give you the wavelength for the signal that's going to be broadcast by that 5G waveform. That gives you an antenna length of around about 4.83 centimeters, which is roughly about the size of your thumb. And if you start to look around at the lampposts wherever you are, you'll see possibly small plastic thumb-sized angular repeater aerials. That's what they are. So there's the main transmission and then there's the booster or the backup areas or the rebroadcast type units. So bring that to your attention because it just so happens that 61.893 is a reciprocal of the phi number, which would be 1.6, which is the golden ratio, the golden mean, phi, square root of 5 over 2 plus a half, for those mathematically inclined out there. And that's something you possibly need to start looking at if the next problem that we have that Donald Trump could have headed off is Elon Musk and his 5G Starlink satellite broadcast that is intended to broadcast 5G radio waves or frequencies down onto the planet, and these can be, because it's extraterrestrial technologies that he's been using and granted and gifted by the covert underground, shall we say, United Intruder Resistance, if we could call them something a little bit topical. So this degree of technology that's been blasted down onto you, or can well be, could be the reason that people start dying mysteriously now of the COVID virus. And there's the other thing. There is possibly something called COVID, but what they've done is they've black bagged the flu virus. That's all it is. It's the flu flirting around. And so now what we have is people being alluded to that they've got some sort of disease, but the hospitals aren't full, the mortuaries aren't full, the undertakers aren't retiring to Palm Springs or to Kensington or Chelsea or wherever else their monies would have taken them if they were burying so many people. So Elon Musk, a danger, a threat with his Neuralink idea of actually linking neural technology to the wireless internet and turning you into an AI transhuman, human 2.0 version of something from hell. So as you can see, there's a lot of room for concern here. And if we are now expecting Donald Trump in the beginning of November or January to start rolling out his action plan, I think we just might end up being a bit disappointed. The final cherry on the cake for now, because I don't want to carry on forever, is Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. How can we forget Julian Assange? Sitting there, rotting away in Belmarsh high security prison in isolation, and Donald Trump could have, with a stroke of a pen, pardoned him. He could have turned around and given him immunity. He could have instructed the DOJ to do that, just like Obama did with Chelsea Manning, the one who actually delivered the material to WikiLeaks. So you've got to ask yourself, why does Donald Trump initially openly say that he loves WikiLeaks? He's a great supporter of them. He likes what they do. And then, once he's president, he starts saying things like, I don't know much about WikiLeaks. And Mike Pompeo, who's the Secretary of State, openly comes out and calls Julian Assange a criminal of the highest level who needs prosecuting. And if he goes to the United States, invariably will spend the rest of his life in jail. So these are the questions. It's not political dynamite for Donald Trump to forgive Julian Assange and allow him to be released. So as you can see, they're hand in glove with the special relationship with the United Kingdom, with Theresa May, who was Home Secretary before she was Prime Minister, with Boris Johnson, who's Oxbridge, ex-Bullingdon boy, went to school with Nathan Rothschild, went to school with Cameron, went to school with Peter Osborne, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. They're all like that. The Mayor of London he was before, now he's been jockeyed into place to do this. And on the 5th of November, they are hard locking down the United Kingdom on stage 2, which I predicted in July. It's on my websites. Have a look at them below. So we know where this is going. Pope Francis yesterday on the All Souls Day, All Souls Day today, on Halloween the 31st, basically cancelled Christmas. Go and have a look. He's basically saying all public displays for the festive season because of the coronavirus should be curtailed or stopped. So, I've covered lots of things there. The main things there are the deception. Will the deception continue? What I am actually thinking that, and I've asked for help and I've asked for advice on this and guidance, and I come from a spiritual direction on it, so I've tried to give the benefit of the doubt all the way along. But what I'm coming to the conclusion is that it's like being on the Lusitania or being on the Titanic. The Titanic's hit the iceberg. The world economy has been deliberately collapsed. It will never recover. This is all going one way. There is no problem at all for Donald Trump through the agency of Q coming along and opening the secret books as to what's been perpetrated upon the public and you, because they realize now that the crystal has already set. It's congealed. The jelly has hardened enough now for them to have complete domination and control because everything is in place. And if that was the case, just saying, if it was the case, then what harm would it do in the slightest for them to openly reveal their playbook. And this is what I'm slightly concerned with, that Q is always pumping this stuff out, and it's always jammed tomorrow. It's always that the arrests are going to come. Durham. Then before it was the Attorney General, Rosenstein. Who's going to do it next? And we've just had the ball kicked down the road and the road and the road, and we're still in that phase now. So that's what makes me concerned. I hope I am proven to be wrong. However, what we have to remember on this is there is something called soul polarization for those spiritually minded out there. And a quick rundown of spiritual polarization means just that. Most entities on the planet at the moment, you would regard them as human beings. Most of them have what's called unsparked souls. I'd say 95 to 98% of the great masses, they love their family. They love their children, but no different than a tiger, no different than a polar bear or a brown bear or a snake will defend its young. Anything outside of that is necessarily a threat or not particularly worth bothering with one way or the other. Those are what's called, so that's a service to self orientation. It's service, me. And there's a lot of that. And if you're in politics, that's invariably you. Over and above that, there is a very, very small percentage of people with sparked souls who are ambivalent or ambiguous, or they haven't quite decided which way they're going to go. And then there is an even probably smaller percentage who are what's called service to other or service to brother. That means they will put their brother and their other people outside of their immediate family in the same light, with a heart of compassion as themselves. So they're always trying to help and do good. Typically, these would be the preachings of Hinduism and Buddhism, not so much any of your mainstream conventional religions like Judaism or Muslim, Orthodox Muslim, or even Catholicism or Orthodox Christianity. So that's the situation. And to get the soul to a position where it is firmly on one of these main tracks requires innumerable incarnations. So people like Trump aren't going to change like that unless he's undecided and he's polarizing one way. People like the Clintons, people like Pelosi, Sarkozy, the former French president, Tony Blair, Cameron, the Clintons, the Bushes, Comey, the whole Brennan, Clapper, Pelosi, Maxine Waters, almost to a man of them and woman of them are all in the club of being service to self. They are a clique looking after their own interests, and predominantly the order of the day is it's a hierarchical, aggressive, reptilian mindset of top-down domination and order following. And if you don't, there are consequences. And if you are not cut out for that, you can't tolerate it. So this is really what I'm saying in conclusion now. This is one of the longest videos I've done. It looks like it's coming up to 34 minutes now. So that's where I'd like to end it. I hope, as I say, Donald Trump proves me wrong, but with the information that I've just tried to divine over the last coming weeks, it's become more and more apparent that what we are possibly being done is we're being asked about and we're being deliberately run down to the wire. And I've got this feeling that as Donald Trump says he's for the vaccination, he's for 5G, he says that the military are ready to introduce the vaccination, that he was all supportive of hydroxychloroquine, and now he doesn't even mention it. He's back on track with Fauci and the World Health Organization. I can't see what profits him from changing his tune and going back to the rocky road that he said he wouldn't follow. So I don't see the swamp being drained. I actually see the swamp bubbling around just as it always was. And Donald J. Trump, being the successful deliverer thanks to the intervention of the military by them feeding sufficient information through in a manner that allowed Q to embrace the world. And there you go. So what the outcome is, we shall see very, very quickly. If I'm proven to be wrong, then I am forever grateful to Donald Trump and the New World Order and anyone involved in it for forgiving me. Not that I want them to do that. But if it's all proven to be a nonsense that I'm speaking here, then so be it. But I just thought I needed to put it out to clear my mind, to clear my soul itself, to express these doubts that I've had for 4 years, but getting behind and hoping for some type of delivery from Donald Trump, from the White House. But when I see the number of mistakes he's made with appointing Barr, with appointing Christopher Wray, with John Bolton, McMaster, it goes on and it goes on all these people who turned on him and let him down. I don't know why that would be allowed to play out, but we'll see. So thanks very much. Like it, subscribe, read the description down below, and let's see what happens after about the 4th or 5th of November, because if things do start to happen and he starts to make arrests and start to drain the swamp, then he needs to do it then, because if he hasn't done it by the 20th, then there could be a mechanism now to use him as the Jesuit stalking horse rationale to kick him out of the White House, to allow the normal service to be resumed on the basis, as the whole world seems to hate him and think he's the biggest idiot ever to walk into the White House, then it would be a job well done, and everybody would be breathing a sigh of relief that normal service has been resumed. No clicking.